a lot of times, Hugh Jackman is going to join us, and Hank Azaria, and Anderson Cooper, and many other people around the country. But sometimes we're able to get an international film star who happens to live down the road. And Jeff Daniels has done many, many great things in his life and many, many great works of art. But for Kenny and me, the best thing that he did was break the Lions curse with Peyton Manning. And here's the cut of when he did that.
Why the is there a bathtub in the end zone of Ford Field? Am I on drugs?
Trust me, Jeff. Google curse breaking spell, and you'll come up with this. Fill a tub with 100 cups of water and a cup of salt.
Doesn't smell like water.
Because it's whiskey. Bobby Lane would have preferred that.
If this stuff really works, why didn't you use it to put a hex on the Patriots?
Belichick's dark magic was just too strong.
And the Lions curse was broken.
33-9 since that event happened.
33-9. And Jeff Daniels is responsible for all of it. And he's with us right now. Hello, Jeff Daniels.
How you doing, Mitch?
We've been on this thing since 6 a.m., so we're 4.5 hours in, and so far doing okay. We raised $2 million last year in a day. 100% of that goes to help needy Detroiters, so we're hoping to try to match that today.
You're heroic. You guys do this every year, and it's a great, great thing.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate you. And boy, I see you a lot because, it seems as like the Lions profile grows, so do the profiles of a handful of people that we associate with Michigan. You being one of them, I saw you doing a song. Was it the Thanksgiving game that you were on?
Yeah, they have me. I'm kind of as traditional as Turkey. They have me on that Thanksgiving pregame Lions show now 2 or 3 years in a row. And it's only because people are absolutely convinced that Peyton and I broke the curse. It was just a comedy bit. I mean, he called and said, "Do you want to do this?" And we shot it in June. And, they didn't air until the end of October of that season. And at the time, I think they were 1-6. And it aired that Sunday night. And then, off they went on a winning streak that hasn't stopped. And, do they have to win the Super Bowl to break the curse? Maybe. But, what Sheila and everyone has done at the Lions, they have – maybe the curse they broke was the losing, is that we now feel great pride in the team, but also in the city and the state. And you're proud to be a Lions fan. You're proud to be from Detroit. And, that wasn't always the case, certainly when you were a Lions fan. So maybe there's a nobler cause that we broke.
Well, it's a good feeling. It's a good time to be around Detroit, but that same sort of spirit is what we celebrate here and try to help one another. And like I said in the open, we get a lot of people, kindly, who I've met over the years who have agreed to help us, but really don't come from here or don't live here. You're kind of the inverse of that. You've become an international film star and never left here. And you and I have known each other for a long time. And we've had discussions over the years about, how possible is that? And was there ever a point in your career where you said, this is costing me to live here in Michigan? I could have had that role if I went to that party in LA, if I had been there that night or whatever. But, I was here at the Purple Rose Theater instead. Was there ever a moment where you said, I need to move out of Michigan in order to make it in my career?
No. Well, initially when I moved here back home in 1986, I'd been in New York City for 10 years. I had maybe 3 or 4 movies, and the career was going up. And I knew that I would take a step or two back because I wouldn't be attending other people's premieres. I wouldn't be going to other parties where you have to network and all that. I just checked out of all that. I just wanted to be an actor. I didn't want to be a star. And so I was hell-bent on making that happen. And it did. I mean, there were a lot of years where it was, it slowed down. And, Dumb and Dumber was one of those where I took it as a risk. For me, it was a joy to do with Jim, but it was a risk. There are a lot of actors that had turned it down and didn't want anything to do with it. And I jumped in because I wanted to change things up. And that bought me 10 years. But then there was another period where I got to be 50 and suddenly I was no longer of interest. And then some time went by and then I got Newsroom and that bought me another 10 years. So it's just what happens with a long career, whether you're in LA and New York or whether you're in Michigan. That's what I've learned is if you just persevere, if you just keep pointing towards that thing you want to do, which for me was just to be an actor, not a star. If you're lucky with a couple of breaks, you might actually see it through. And in my case, it turned out to work out just fine, especially with streaming, because that's where all the actors and that's where all the writers have gone, is to streaming.
Yeah. So we're talking to Jeff Daniels. You mentioned the Dumb and Dumber thing, and I wonder, we're pretty close in age. I think you're a few years older than me. But
I'm sure I am, yeah.
Is there any role that you look back on in your younger years that you say, man, I can't believe like I did that, and that's so far from the work I do now, or I if the me now would never take that role then, or couldn't do that role now?
Well, it's there's an old showbiz adage, one for you, one for them, and the them is to pay the bills, and if you're going to have a long career, and you're not an A-lister, you're trying to climb the ladder, you're going to take some things that are for the money. For me, there were family films like 101 Dalmatians and My Favorite Martian that I did that I was happy to do at the time, and I was paid to do them, but I wouldn't do them now. Maybe Dalmatians, but I wouldn't even do that. Once I was able to kind of, the last 10, 15 years, I'm doing what I want to do. And I wasn't being offered that. And I think, again, with the writers kind of running to the streaming networks, that's where all the writing went. That's where that off-Broadway kind of edgy storytelling went. And I was always attracted to that. So I don't have to, basically now I get to do what I want to do. And that wasn't always the case. So that changed after Newsroom.
Yeah. Well, for a guy who's done everything from To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway to bringing to life one of the Tom Wolfe characters, you have spanned quite a bit. And do I read somewhere here that you're playing Ronald Reagan in something upcoming?
I did it. It's over. I did it. It happened. It was intimidating. You have to thread a needle because you have to capture his voice. You've got to capture the look. There was a meeting in 1986 in Reykjavik, Iceland, between Reagan and Gorbachev, and they discussed lowering nuclear weapons. It was a very tense time in the Cold War, a famous meeting. And we went to Reykjavik in October, and we shot it. And Jared Harris plays Gorbachev. J.K. Simmons plays George Schultz, who's another Michigan native and Lions and Tigers fan. And it was basically the three of us. And we shot in the house where they met, in the same room where they met, in the same chairs where they sat.
Wow.
And it was Pete Souza came. He was the White House photographer, not only for Obama, but all the way back to Reagan. And we invited him and he came. And when I walked on the set as Reagan with the hair and the suit and the mannerisms, and I started talking, well, not only Pete, but the crew just went silent.
Can I hear some of your Reagan?
Well, I've only got one word. I'll give you one word. And it was the key word. And I use it a lot because the voice is elusive. Well.
There's kind of no other word needed for Reagan.
You don't need to say much else, Mitch. Get in there. If you just get in there. What's interesting, Mitch, is Timothy Chalamet is going to do Dylan here in a couple weeks, the big movie. And Ed Norton plays Pete Seeger. And it's a thing of suggesting the voice versus, as Timothy says, doing an impression Olympics.
Right.
And if you can suggest the voice enough, you still see it's me, but with his hair. Right. And if you can suggest it, maybe the audience gets pulled into you that Reagan's kind of in me. versus going at the camera. That's what we did, and it was
great.
I'll tell you, we had a great time doing it.
Sounds great.
Jeff, can I share a great Jeff Daniels memory? A very quick one.
Quick.
Very quick.
If
Several
it's
years ago, we met, Jeff, and I told you, I said one of my favorite movies of all time, The Purple Rose of Cairo. You shook my hand and said, "God bless you for not saying it was Dumb and Dumber." So both great movies, but Purple Rose of Cairo is one of the absolute best. God bless you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin. I know that you're a massive music fan and a great musician and singer in your own right. John Pizzarelli, who's been a longtime friend of mine, and of course you know him as a great international jazz player and singer.
And
he's here with us.
He's the real deal, yeah.
He's the real deal, and he's here over to my right and has composed a little thank you ditty for you for joining us on the program. So here's John Pizzarelli.
We got Jeff Daniels here, lots of movies he's been in. The Purple Rose of Cairo, God of Carnage, Blackbird, Terms of Endearment, The Squid and the Ink. He's been nominated for 5 Golden Globes, 3 Tony noms. He's won 2 Primetime Emmys, and he's on the Michigan Walk of Fame. He's Detroit's own Jeffrey Daniels.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Jeff. As always, appreciate your support here. Anything you want to throw on? We auction a lot of stuff up here. Could someone, I don't know, maybe do a Zoom call with you or meet you somewhere or shake your hand or get a movie collection or something?
I don't know. I've got from Mockingbird, they gave us these picture books. Limited edition. And it's basically a collection of all the reviews and pictures from the Broadway production. I can sign that and send it to you. You can sell that.
Sounds good. All right, we'll throw it on the pile. That'll bring in a few extra bucks. Appreciate it, Jeff. Appreciate you. Thank you for taking time today to talk to us and helping everybody in Detroit.
Okay.